The wall behind Flynn's bar contains what Bob Lindsay remembers as, quote, a secret door as high as the bar and all the way to the floor, end quote. It opens directly into a cramped triangular sitting room with a view through another two-way mirror into the woman's bathroom. Okay. I talk about a voyeur. This is what I'm talking about when I say these indecent, wicked ways of this man. I mean, come on. You're gonna build your house and deliberately put that in there. You got some issues. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jennifer. I am so happy to have you here in episode 5 of Errol Flynn Slept Here. Today we're gonna get into chapter 3. I am reading it on my Kindle here. I got my trusty Kindle next to me, and this chapter is called Bachelor's Paradise. And I was thinking, before I started this video, I was thinking to myself, I'm a Catholic Christian. I like to think Errol is in purgatory. I really do. I really do. I like to think that Errol is in purgatory. I don't believe at his heart and soul he was a horrible man. I think he was just a really lost and misguided man. But he participated in a lot of indecent things. He was wicked. You know, he did title his autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways. And I don't know, it just seems like with such a rough childhood, you know, with a distant father whom he idolized but didn't really spend a whole heck of a lot of time with. So it's not like he had a positive male role model in his life. And he had an estranged and distant and just rocky relationship with a mother that was physically abusive to him. Also, she was emotionally distant, gave him a lot of weird mixed messages about how to relate to members of the opposite sex, how to look at sex in general. She taught him that it was dirty, yet she was having affairs. I go into all of this stuff in the first 4 episodes of this series called Errol Flynn Slept Here. And he was not religious. He basically scoffed and laughed at religious people and thought that it was just kind of a bunch of hogwash and a bunch of nonsense. And, you know, I mean, he behaved like the, you know, typical atheist and hedonist, just doing whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. But it said in his later days, I don't know who he was talking to. And I hate when I do this. I need to write it down. A friend of his said that in his later days, he was thinking about his mortality, thinking about right, thinking about wrong. And Errol said that he would always wear like in the lining of his suit jackets or on the backs of his ties or on his ties or on handkerchiefs and things he would carry, a question mark, because he really felt that his life was indeed a question mark. He was always questioning, why am I here? Why am I going through this? Why do things happen to me, good and bad? Why do I make the choices that I've made in my life that have, you know, led me to a lot of really dark places? I mean, the man burned out at age 50. I mean, he had lived practically the life of someone who was maybe 65, 70 years old by the time he was 25. But, you know, he lived fast, burned out very early. But yeah, he was just basically like, what does it all mean? Question mark, question mark. And one of the things that I think gave me a lot of comfort when I first was reading this book and I looked his autobiography, the very first page has 3 quotes, and they're all from the Bible. And I wanted to read them to you. And the first one is from Romans in the New Testament, chapter 1, verses 29 and 30. And just tell me what you think about why he would have put these particular passages from the Bible on the first page of his autobiography. Okay. So the Romans verse says, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents. And then he also has a quote from the Old Testament, Isaiah chapter 57, verse 21. There is no peace, saith my God, to the wicked. And the last Bible verse Errol picked was from the Psalms, chapter 32, verse 10. Many sorrows shall be to the wicked. And what does he title his autobiography? My Wicked, Wicked Ways. This was a man that suffered from a deep hurt. This was a man that had a hole right in the middle of him that he was constantly trying to fill with substances, with women, with adventuring, with high-risk activity. And he didn't really care if he was gonna die or not due to all of these things. So that speaks to me of a man that has a lot of hurt. But I pray for the soul of Errol Flynn. And if you are a Christian, Catholic or not, I would encourage you to pray for his soul as well. Because I would like to think that, yes, our God is a just God, but he is also a merciful God. And only God can look into the heart and soul of somebody when they are on their deathbed, taking their last dying breaths. And he's a very affable, warm, witty, charming person on one hand, and he's got a lot of vices on the other, but yeah, I don't think he's irredeemable. So yes, I pray for this man, and I just felt compelled to share that with you before we get into chapter 3. So I will link somewhere here on the screen if I remember, or I'll put it down in the description, the first 4 episodes of this series. But let's get into chapter 3 now of the book. And this one is called Bachelor's Paradise. We're gonna get into more about the final construction phase of the house and farm, all that good stuff, and everything that went on there. So a little bit of Coke Zero there. I know it's so bad, Coke Zero. I've been drinking mostly water, but once in a while, I just need that. I need that caffeine. Okay, so here we go. Bachelor's Paradise. Just a year before his death, Errol Flynn would state in My Wicked, Wicked Ways, and you got to get this book. It's good. She went up fast, like the sails of a boat. He's talking about the house. And in a single sentence, as he sits in Jamaica at the end of his life and reminisces, Errol Flynn reveals pure love for his lost home, Mulholland Farm. Finally, ground is broken. The house does indeed go up fast, after he decides that no one can capture Errol Flynn's ideas for design better than Flynn himself. He claims that a sea captain's home in Tasmania inspires the look of the house. And remember, we talked about that in the last episode. He only felt really content and calm in his heart and soul when he was on his boat on the sea. He came from seafaring people in Tasmania. He just loved the sea, and the sea was a thing that had captured his heart his entire life. Architectural Digest will refer to the house as, quote, basically Connecticut farmhouse, end quote, while most others will call it California Colonial. The solid wood frame structure features diagonal earthquake blocking on all external walls. At 4,000 square feet, it's not a grand Hollywood mansion like those of his contemporaries. It's more on the order of Gable and Lombard's cozy ranch off to the west in Encino. And he's talking about Clark Gable and his wife Carol Lombard. It is his refuge, with a public entrance up the driveway off Mulholland and a private back entrance. If fans are lining the driveway, or too many pals and hanger-oners are partying at Mulholland, Flynn can drive along a fire break skirting the edge of his property and pull in at the back of the house, away from prying eyes. The parcel sits just 4.6 miles up the mountain from the Warner Brothers studios and presents a panoramic view of Burbank and the San Fernando Valley to the north and the breathtaking peaks of the San Gabriel Mountains beyond. Today, this stretch of Mulholland is as settled as it can be, with million-dollar homes walled off fortress-like behind barricades and fences and shrubs and hedges, all under the watchful eyes of cameras and sensors. But in 1941, Flynn has only coyotes for neighbors, which is why he builds here in the first place. Flynn takes Buster Wiles to the site. Now, Buster was someone that he met on the set of his first movie for Warner Brothers called Captain Blood, and he was a stuntman, and they had a really long friendship. So Buster even ended up working for him and helping him maintain the grounds over at Mulholland Farm. And he was from Tennessee, had a really thick Tennessee accent, and was kind of like a rough and tumble guy's guy. So Buster Wiles says, quote, "We strolled through the partially completed house with Errol pointing out the living room and so on. Since I was now single, Errol kindly invited me to live at Mulholland Farm. Until it was thoroughly finished, we lived at Bruce Cabot's residence." A September 1941 accounting places the construction cost for Mulholland House somewhere around $20,000. The exterior is masonry over wood frame, with a first floor that features one-story wings angling in at 45 degrees off the two-story main section. Second floor dormers nestle in the pitched shingle roof. The pitched wings hug a flagstone patio and a narrow strip of grass, beyond which sits a swimming pool. It's the kind of house more likely to be found in Santa Monica or Malibu, on a ledge above the sea, and it's no wonder. The design of the place and its appointments date back to Flynn's youth and visits to his mother's side of the family, the Youngs. They were seafaring people, and they brought the sea home with them in decor. The west side of the house features the kitchen, butler's bedroom, and a 3-car garage. A formal dining room is set off in the west wing, with windows comprising 2 walls and ceiling-to-floor mirrors lining the fourth. A disappearing door leads to a vestibule that connects dining room and kitchen. Under the stairs is a formal bathroom designated men on the door. The interior of the main section reflects its owner. A long living room paneled entirely in California pickled pine dominates the downstairs and offers a view of the pool through a north-facing wall packed with windows and French doors. And it's these almost, ceiling to floor windows. Well, I shouldn't say ceiling to floor windows, but like one wall basically that looked out onto the view was just all windows. And that is where in episode 1, I talked about one of the events that led Tracy Nelson, the daughter of singer and television actor Rick Nelson, to end up fleeing the house on Mulholland Farm that she lived at with her dad. She's driving up the driveway and she's supposedly alone while her father, Rick Nelson's off on tour. And so that whole bank of windows faces out as you're driving up. And she said that when she was driving up, she saw a man walking back and forth behind those windows, behind that huge wall that faces out that's just windows. And she was like, pops home from the road from touring. And she gets back in the house and there's no one there. So that is what I'm picturing as the authors here are describing the house. So, when Tracy's driving, she sees a man pacing back and forth, and that's what they're describing. So these walls offer a view of the pool through a north-facing wall packed with windows and French doors. A formal fireplace trimmed with polished brass panels sits opposite the windowed wall. Inset book and curio shelves and beamed pine ceilings complete a rustic and refined look. On the wall to the right of the fireplace hangs a Gauguin. On the wall to the left, a Van Gogh. Flynn claims this painting was smuggled out of Holland by Van Gogh's physician, one step ahead of the Nazis. Flynn also states that Hermann Göring himself was after the painting, which made its way to Mulholland via South America. And then the author also puts in some pictures of the house, but these pictures are circa 1987 as the house was being torn down and demolished. The author says, this view of the front wall of the den looks through the living room to the edge of the spiral staircase. Deconstruction photo from August 1987 harkens back to the house much as Flynn would have seen it in September 1941 when the walls were going up. Note the horizontal blocking on the studwork and the shear wall construction for protection against earthquakes, which you need in California. Funny thing, says Flynn, I forgot to build an entrance. He will enter the house through the garage during his years there. Others will use the door beside the dining room as the main entrance. And when you're looking at pictures of a Mulholland House with the pool in front of the house, that door that's in front of the pool area, that's kind of that wayward entrance that he's talking about that he kind of forgot to put, which is kind of funny. So beside the living room stands a curved bar designed by Flynn and bound in burgundy Moroccan leather with inset tiles hand glazed by Goya. On the wall above the bar hangs a grotesque and glory mural of a bullfight painted by celebrity illustrator Henry Clive, who painted one-eyed director Raoul Walsh in among the spectators. Behind the bar is a bathroom with a designation on the door reading ladies. The bar holds more than liquor bottles. As revealed by Bob Lindsay, Stuart Hamblin's grandson, Stuart Hamblin was the second owner of Mulholland Farm and House after Errol was forced to sell it because he couldn't make those alimony payments to his first wife, French actress Lily Demita. And we talked all about their crazy, tumultuous relationship in the last episode, episode 4. So go watch that one if you haven't. So It's saying, as revealed by Bob Lindsay, Stuart Hamlin's grandson, and Matthew and Gunnar Nelson, Rick Nelson's sons, Rick Nelson was the third owner, the wall behind Flynn's bar contains what Bob Lindsay remembers as, quote, a secret door as high as the bar and all the way to the floor, end quote. It opens directly into a cramped triangular sitting room with a view through another two-way mirror into the woman's bathroom. Okay. I talk about a voyeur. This is what I'm talking about when I say these indecent, wicked ways of this man. I mean, come on. You're going to build your house and deliberately put that in there. You got some issues. So it's saying it is Flynn's first voyeuristic device, predating his infamous two-way ceiling mirror by several years. And we talked about that one in, I think, the first episode, where there was an infamous bedroom that had a two-way mirror, which was with a trapdoor through the attic on top, that Flynn would take some of his cronies up there and they would look down at people partying and doing things in the bedrooms. So, yeah. But there are other secret devices as well, like two viewing tubes flush with the ceiling, one in the foyer between the living and dining rooms and the other above the bar. And these tubes that are viewing tubes allow Flynn to peer down from the second floor at activity going on down below. This 1987 photo was taken after removal of the plaster walls. So sad. Beyond the bar sits the east wing, which features a den, also in pickled pine with beamed ceiling. Windows dominate the den walls on three sides, broken only by a fireplace in the east wall. Flynn flush mounts speakers inside the walls, and he builds in bookshelves along with display cases for ship models and guns. One of the cases is backed with a map of San Diego Harbor, where he often sails the Sirocco. And remember, he bought another one, which he also renamed the Sirocco from his beloved first boat when he was in his early 20s, sailing around the western coast of Australia. I think he crashed it and abandoned it or something, the first Sirocco. The inspiration for these features, the Young family. That was his mother's maiden name, her family. Flynn's mother's brother, Harry, had traveled the breadth of the Pacific. Author John Hammond Moore visited Harry's son, Flynn's first cousin, in the 1970s and saw, quote, substantial evidence of those travels, intricate Chinese carvings, spears from the Solomon Islands, ship models, and other mementos of a life spent on the high seas, end quote. So the sea was in Errol's blood. In the back corner of his den, Flynn places a leather-topped desk. Opposite, in the front corner, he places a burgundy leather chair that matches the bar. In this room, Errol will answer fan mail, read scripts, run his lines, and write his second novel titled Charlie Bowtie Comes to America. He'll gaze out at the mountains in two directions and sleep some nights. Nearby is the bathroom designated for ladies when he's throwing a party, but this is Flynn's bathroom when he's home alone. In the back of the house, he builds a steam room featuring tiled caricatures of portly gentlemen and buxom babes. The nautical theme continues with the staircase to the second floor, a wide spiral that ascends from near the dining room. In the ceiling at the top of the stairwell, Flynn sets a recessed light, another of the forward-thinking features. I guess that was a cool thing. That wasn't popular at that time, that got more and more popular. The second floor is maze-like and uninteresting compared to the first, as if Flynn's attention wandered before completion of the project. One of the people that wrote about Flynn said that they thought he had ADD with the way that he kind of flirted and flittered around from thing to thing. At the top of the stairs, the visitor is faced with a series of doors leading to bedrooms and closets. A large guest bedroom with an adjoining bath sits to the left of the stairs. Beneath this bedroom is the garage. Another smaller bedroom adjoining the guest bathroom and a powder room sits above the vestibule. A hallway connects the stairs with Flynn's master bedroom. On either side of the hallway runs expansive closets for his clothing and shoes. The master bedroom above the living room is a roomy 18 by 17 and features paneled walls and a fireplace that shares the chimney with the fireplace below. And here we go again with Flynn's wicked voyeuristic ways, weirdo ways. It says he built a secret staircase into the wall beside the fireplace. This is in his master bedroom, for quick entrances and escapes via the back of the house. One wall is recessed for the headboard of his bed. He installs in-wall speakers above the bed, and on the opposite wall, both connected to the record player and radio in the living room. So he had stereo sound and all the cool things. I wonder if he was alive today, if he would have Alexa and all that kind of stuff hooked up. Maybe he would, because he was really into getting the info and the intel and spying on people, so probably. Adjacent to the closet is a master bath featuring a walk-in shower and a ceramic tile countertop. A 6 by 36 inch stainless steel space heater built into the wall protects against cold California mornings. Other features adorn the newly completed Mulholland Farm. Beyond the pool, twin stone white lions guard a wrought iron gate that leads down brick stairs descending to a tennis court on the lower plateau. And this tennis court isn't just for show. It's designed for the professional. Chain link fence and netting all around, and a patio gallery set into the hillside above. In coming years, the greats of Hollywood and professional tennis players will play there. And in his early days, when he was still in school in Australia, he apparently was a very impressive tennis player who probably could have gone pro, but he stopped getting access to sport teams and being able to nurture that talent and that part of his life because he kept getting kicked out of all the schools he was in. So it's kind of sad, he's his own worst enemy. And the author puts a picture inserted into the chapter at this point of Errol playing George Armstrong Custer with his co-star Olivia de Havilland, and it says Flynn and de Havilland appear in the last scene they would shoot together, the parting of the Custers in They Died with Their Boots On. Just 4.6 miles away, Mulholland Farm was being painted and furnished. He moved in less than a month later. So going back to describing the house, below the house, Flynn constructs a small, circular, plank-floored building of pickled pine inside and out, with tile work completed at the same time as the steam room. He dubs this building the Casino. Here for a decade, he will host poker tournaments and stage cockfights until the floor is stained with blood. And he talks about traveling all around Europe and Asia and different places with his buddies before he became famous in Hollywood. I forgot he did so much traveling. It was crazy. I forgot what country he was in, where he was making a pretty penny cheating at cockfight matches. It's just crazy. This guy, I have to come up with a different word for crazy, like unhinged. He was unhinged, this man. Okay, so he's hosting poker tournaments and staging cockfights until the floor is stained with blood. Awesome. An interior wall of the casino includes a teller window for betting. So, to have someone in the little teller window taking bets and stuff. In the casino, a stack of folding director's chairs and a collapsible table are at the ready in case some game or other breaks out. So we all know where Errol's priorities were, don't we? The square stable next door has capacity for up to 6 horses. Here he keeps Onyx, the black stud that appeared in his movies, along with Little Fella, a former racehorse. They exercise in the ring a little higher in the hill. In the early days of the farm, Flynn keeps goats, chickens, swans, and a monkey named Chico, who careens across the property dressed in formal attire, including a top hat. Remember in the 80s, if you're a Gen Xer like me, when Michael Jackson had his chimp Bubbles, that was his little companion that he would always be photographed with? That is what I'm thinking. It's these eccentric personalities that have these crazy animal farms. Okay. But Errol dressed up Chico in a tuxedo and garb and a top hat. Like, okay, Errol. Late in 1941, Mulholland Farm is alive with activity. Wiles, remember Buster Wiles, his stuntman buddy, serves as Flynn's driver and de facto bodyguard. Flynn hires away from best friend Freddie McAvoy a small, bald, devilish manservant named Alexander Pavlenko, about 35 years of age, with an impenetrable Russian accent, and he becomes the overseer of this new house and grounds. Alex has 2 vices, gambling and women. Oh, you'll fit in right here, Alex. He soon discovers that one of the fringe benefits of working for Errol Flynn is leftovers, girls that Errol, doesn't have time for. Girls Flynn stiffs when a better opportunity comes along. Girls who come to the house willing to do anything to meet Errol Flynn. Beautiful women come to Mulholland like bees to honey, says Buster Wiles. High up in the mountain in Errol Flynn's newly completed home, Pavlenko and Wiles find heaven. Oh my gosh, pray for those 2 fools too. Pray for Buster and pray for Alex. This is crazy. This is just crazy. Oh, wait. Indecent. Flynn hires 2 women as well, a French cook named Marie and 18-year-old Marianne Hyde, late of Beverly Hills High School, who serves as his secretary. Young, tall, dark, willowy Marianne Hyde has the legs of a dancer, which suits Flynn just fine. And apparently Errol was a leg man. He loved long legs. Sometimes live-in at Mulholland, Hyde dates him even before the divorce from Lily is finalized. Lastly, Flynn hires an Armenian caretaker dubbed Mr. George to live in the bungalow at the entrance to the property to tend the 11 acres. Oh, so he's got an 18-year-old graduate from Beverly Hills High School with long legs named Mary Ann Hyde, who's his, I guess, secretary. He's got Alex the Russian, who's kind of like an overseer of everything. He's got his buddy Buster working there, and he's now got the Armenian Mr. George. So he's surrounded by just these cronies that love the life up there. It kind of, I don't know, I'm thinking of like it being Las Vegas up there 24/7, seems like. Mulholland Farm is now in operation and as complex as its owner. Equal parts writer's refuge, brothel, working farm, and sportsman's paradise. There you go. Kind of sounds like 24-hour Vegas going on up there, minus the writer's refuge part, right? Flynn intends to live out his career there, and he might have, except for one night when the cops come calling and for one angry and highly motivated ex-wife. So the author has 2 more pictures in the chapter at this point, and the first one is of Russian expatriate Alex Pavenko. He's Flynn's man, his right-hand man at Mulholland. He's the valet, the bartender, and caretaker of the house. Alex also accounts for Flynn's leftovers, the girls that the master of Mulholland doesn't have time to accommodate. And in this picture, he's posing with writer and producer Mark Hellinger behind Flynn's bar during a 1945 party. And this photo comes from the Deidre Flynn collection, one of Errol's daughters, Deidre. And then the other photo shows a view of Warner Brothers Studios, quite a pretty picture from the grounds of Mulholland Farm. And it says, this was Errol Flynn's poolside view of the Warner Brothers sound stages to the northeast in the San Fernando Valley below Mulholland Farm. Flynn was under contract there for 17 years, 11 while living at Mulholland. In the towering stage 16 at the center, he had worked on the Seahawk and Gentleman Jim, 2 of his famous movies. But like, how crazy is that? So like the bane of his existence, the Warner Brothers studio system that he felt so trapped by, but basically allowed him to afford the lifestyle to which he was accustomed. But, you know, he's up in his just domain up there in the mountains looking down at Warner Brothers, probably hating it. But yeah, I just find that very interesting. And then there's another picture of the house itself with a picture of the pool in front of it. And by all means, it looks very modest. I mean, people don't really build like this anymore. They wouldn't put the pool that close to the home. If they did, it would be, say, in a backyard, not in a front yard. I thought that was a little weird, but that's the way Errol had designed it. But the caption reads, late in 1941, the sod was laid, the pool was filled, and Mulholland was ready for occupants. Mr. Flynn had built his dream house. This view shows a modest country home that could have been found in Connecticut. Near that of Mr. Flynn lived here, literally and figuratively, on top of the world. However, few knew, including Warner Brothers, that the swashbuckler hid in this mountaintop retreat, paralyzed by depression and unable to work. And then it also talks about how Flynn was actually a pretty good gardener and landscaper, and he really enjoyed planting and choosing all the foliage and the plants and things that he ended up putting in on the grounds of Mulholland Farm. And my husband's really into that too. He likes to go to nurseries and pick flowers and plants and do all that kind of stuff. He did that for our house in Texas. And I mean, honestly, that stuff bores me so much. Like, I like being in a pretty backyard and admiring it once it's done, but I am not a gardener by any means. I just don't have the patience for it. Anyone that is a gardener, I am really fascinated by the fact that they like to do that, and I am in awe of them. And then there's a picture that shows some of the foliage around Mulholland Farm, and it says Flynn's research into landscaping led him to place, I'm probably going to butcher this, bougainvillea, an ice plant around his property in great abundance, and both will continue to blossom at the site for 45 years. And then there's another photograph which shows the grounds of Mulholland Farm from a distance. And it says a rare photograph of the elaborate pickled pine casino in the foreground, where cockfights and poker tournaments were held for a decade. Stuart Hamblin regulated the casino to storage. During the Nelson years, Gunnar and Matthew Nelson, Rick Nelson's twin sons, remember the Nelson twins that had a few hits in the 90s? If you're Gen X, if you know, you know. They said that Gunnar and Matthew would play around the creepy building, but never stray inside. I wonder why. Creepy. And then there's a picture of this 18-year-old Mary Ann Hyde, the one that he, found out of Beverly Hills High School, recent 18-year-old graduate. And it says, avid leg man Errol Flynn chose this 18-year-old Beverly Hills High School grad, Mary Ann Hyde, his girlfriend of the moment, to serve as his secretary in the early days of Mulholland Farm. Among her duties was typing Flynn's novel with the working title Charlie Bowtie or The Show-Off. By the time of the rape trial, we haven't gotten into the rape trial yet. Yes, he was embroiled in a rape trial. Errol was. By the time of the rape trial, singer-dancer Hyde was making a brief appearance as a circus performer in Universal Pictures' Flesh and Fantasy. In the book Errol and Me, Nora Eddington, Errol's second wife, Flynn's new flame. So she's his new flame while he's dating this Mary Ann Hyde. So in her book, Nora writes that she met Mary Ann Hyde and she says, the girl was simply ravishing. How can Errol ever want to date me? Alongside of her figure, mine doesn't seem to belong to a woman. That's what Nora said. And we'll come to find this out, but Errol meets Nora Eddington, his second wife. Are you ready for how he meets her? She is a cigarette girl at the courthouse that he had to go to every day in Los Angeles for his rape trial. She was 18, but it's like, are you serious? You're on trial for rape of an underage minor, and we'll get into all of that. Don't worry. But yeah, the cigarette girl in the courthouse who's young herself, barely legal. That's where he meets Nora Eddington, the second wife. It's like, you cannot make this stuff up. And then there's another photo of this secretary, Mary Ann, and it says, Mary Ann Hyde poses with blonde June Lang and one lucky monkey. While at right, she balances deftly on a trapeze. No small feat in 3-inch heels. Both photos were taken to promote Flesh and Fantasy. And then there's another photo of Errol playing tennis. Remember we talked about what a great tennis player that he was? It says Flynn at a charity tennis match in summer 1940. After a successful juniors career in Australia, Flynn brought his tennis game to America. He was a founding member of the West Side Tennis Club in Santa Monica and became the singles champion of all Hollywood. Writer Dixon Morley witnessed a Flynn match at the club, and he said, quote, Errol wielding a racket is as satisfying a sight as Errol piercing a rathbone in a hot dueling shot. He does everything with such terrific enthusiasm and skill. Between sets, he'd relax briefly. Then he was acing his opponent again, end quote. Tennis suited the swashbuckling side of Flynn perfectly as he marauded through the West Side Club with other Hollywood stars like Gilbert Roland and the rough-edged Carole Lombard. Through Lombard, Flynn met Alice Marble, who was the winner of 5 Grand Slam singles tournaments. Marble operated the pro shop at the club, and in her book, Courting Danger, she remembered the day that Flynn and his posse pushed their way in, and Flynn loudly proclaimed to her that he needed a jockstrap size large. I blushed, she said, to the delight of Flynn's crowd. I mean, come on. I mean, you hear something like that and you're kind of like, how cheese can you be, Errol? Like, really? Really? But yeah, I mean, sounds about right. Newsreels of the day captured Flynn's style and grace on the tennis court. He worked at his tennis as hard as he ever worked at anything and became good enough to appear often in celebrity tournaments with Bill Tilden and other pros without ever embarrassing himself. His regulation court at Mulholland included a plywood sidewall for practicing and a patio above for spectators. Said Nora Eddington, second wife, of the Flynn of 1943, quote, every Sunday, Mulholland Farm became an open house. Girls in droves and tennis players came. They came to laugh, to watch tennis, to freeload. Errol played an excellent game of tennis. Had he concentrated solely upon it, experts predicted he could have gained a national ranking, and he would play with a lot of his celebrity friends as well. And it says that he had few rivals on Hollywood tennis courts, and he could always count on leading man Robert Stack for a good match. And there's a picture of Robert Stack there. If you are a child of the 80s and 90s, and if you watched Unsolved Mysteries, that's Robert Stack, the host of Unsolved Mysteries, the old school Unsolved Mysteries. And that's a picture of him. And I guess Robert Stack was a national skeet shooting champion, and that's a picture of him at Mulholland Farm on the tennis courts there. Flynn accessed his tennis court from a set of brick stairs near the pool that connected the upper plateau with the lower part of the property, including the court. A pair of stone white lions guarded the head of these stairs. And the next part of the chapter is talking about Errol's voyeuristic ways, and it includes a few pictures of that trapdoor above the bedroom that opened up into the attic, where apparently him and his buddies would be up there. Just they would open up that trapdoor and look down into that two-way mirror, into the bedroom activity below. And so it's talking about his voyeur tendencies, and it talks about that two-way mirror, and it says it was part of the 1945 addition of a new east wing to the house, and it became the worst kept secret in Hollywood. Above the mirror was the attic, accessible through the crawl space from one of the upstairs bedrooms and by an outside stairway. In the attic, a trap door lifted up, revealing the see-through mirror. Flynn claimed that only Bruce Cabot fell victim to the two-way mirror as he made love to a girl on the bed below. Cabot was not amused. Hedy Lamarr admitted in her book, Ecstasy and Me, that she looked down from the attic through the two-way mirror as an Italian movie star changed into her bathing suit. Maybe Sophia Loren? I don't know. Actor Robert Douglas, Flynn's co-star in two pictures, was another who succumbed to a look through the two-way mirror. He recalled being at the trapdoor, which, quote, overlooked the fascinating bedroom in which were a young couple asleep. Flynn had said, "Watch this, it'll be fun. We had our champagne." He pressed a button. The end right opposite the bed, a screen came up which woke the sleeping couple up in bed. They both sat up naked, and then Errol pressed another button, and onto the screen came a pornographic movie. They were so shocked, these two. They sat there and watched, and we went down to the bar and left them there. That is just, I mean, I don't know. Errol. In March 1955, Confidential magazine, which was like a Hollywood tabloidy magazine of that time, broke the news of Flynn's magic mirror to the nation. Flynn sued the magazine and settled out of court for $15,000. But he did not contest the existence of the mirror. Rather, he sued the publication because the magazine said that he had abandoned his bride, Patricia Winemore, his third wife, on their wedding night to visit a prostitute. Okay. And then there's a picture. The only known photo of the trapdoor in the attic was snapped in 1988. Imagine Flynn and all the famous people who peered down through this porthole. Note that the pane of the two-way glass had been removed. And then there's a picture from the bedroom's vantage point looking up, and the caption says, "The ceiling of mirrors in the bedroom as seen in June 1987. Visible at center is the infamous two-way mirror with deterioration caused by attic heat. The area with the two-way mirror became Rick Nelson's bedroom. He joked about it on national television with David Letterman." Let me see if I can find that footage.
And is this possible that you purchased a home owned by Errol Flynn?
Yeah, well, it was a house that he built off of, right overlooking Hollywood, or the valley, really.
Is this, now, to my way of thinking, Errol Flynn's house has got to be enormous, huh?
It's good size, It is.
How big would it be? Do you know, like in square feet?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't. No, it's. I know he built it around, I think, 1938 or 9, something like that. And it's kind of interesting because my dad used to play tennis up there at his house, And my mom said, I know when it was in escrow and stuff, it was his favorite house, And I hadn't realized that, But it's got a real good feeling, and it's, got a lot of
Was
a pool there.
He, I think, was an unusual person, or we were led to believe he had a rather colorful life. Do you have any...
A lot of mirrors.
Mirrors, are there? Where would, like on the medicine chest, mirrors there, or...?
No, there's a mirror over the bed, you know.
That's unusual?
It is for me. I would never get one.
Yeah. I got one up in the garage, but that's as close as
I can never get to stick on this one. Dangerous.
And are there secret passages or any of that?
There are, yeah. It's a room now, but it used to be a sun deck, and he used to have a little hole there, and he'd look into the living room to be able to see who was there, you know.
So he always had a pretty good idea of folks coming and going in his house?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But few outsiders knew about another secret passageway leading from behind the bar to a small viewing area beside the downstairs ladies' bathroom. Quote, "There was enough room," says Bob Lindsay, grandson of Stuart Hamblin, "for one or two guys to just sit there. Just a small little room. The one wall inside the bathroom was all mirrors, a bathtub and mirrors. Through this pane of two-way glass beside the bathtub, Flynn and his cronies could see and hear everything that went on. Flynn claimed in My Wicked, Wicked Ways that he bugged the women's bathroom, presumably with a wire and speaker setup, courtesy of gaffers from the studio. An unlikely confirmation of the bugging device came from Rolling Stones guitarist Ron Wood, who toured the house in the 1970s with an eye for buying it from the Hamblins. Errol had two-way mirrors, speaker systems in the ladies' room, not for security, just because he was an A1 voyeur. And that's Ron Wood, the Rolling Stone guitarist, saying that. Hedy Lamarr, the actress, also alluded to the spied-upon bathroom in her book and told of attending one of Flynn's 1949 parties for MGM personnel. She says, "I knew Errol's house well. While driving to the party, she warned the female friend accompanying her, many of the bathrooms have peepholes or ceilings with squares of opaque glass through which you can't see out, but someone can see in, so be careful." The secret passageway accessible from the bar, according to Gunnar and Matthew Nelson, continued past the ladies' room and into the steam room, accessed by another trapdoor below the bench. Errol was just all busy building all this craziness. Said Gunnar Nelson with a touch of glee, Errol Flynn was a major perv, end quote. And then, yeah, he was. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. And then the last picture is of Errol and an actress named Ann Sheridan. And it says, "For Flynn, the edge of darkness was at hand, and it was more than the title of his latest picture. As biographer Ted Tomney observed in his book on the swashbuckler, the way he lived it was inevitable that he would be clobbered." Here, Flynn poses on location with Ann Sheridan during production of Edge of Darkness in September 1941, and I guess that was based on the book. That was a really famous movie about hiding from Nazis in World War II. So that is the end of chapter 3. The next one is going to be called Flying the Jolly Roger. So I can't wait to get into that one with you. But what do you guys think about all of these two-way mirrors, these bathrooms with peepholes, and like secret staircases and escape routes where Errol could just either come into the house through the back or just exit really quick through the back? It just seems like it was his refuge, but it was also a place where a ton of people were just kind of hanging around, just hanger-oners and partying there. Sounds like for days on end, and even he kind of got sick of these people and would just take off out of the back whenever he needed some peace and quiet. But yeah, craziness going on up at Mulholland Farm and Mulholland House. And yeah, no wonder there is craziness going on. According to Tracy Nelson, all of the things that she saw and heard up at Mulholland House after Errol's death when her family owned it. Very spooky, very scary. I will list all of the other videos in this series down below for you. Get caught up on them if you haven't. I will see you in chapter 4 very, very soon. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you so much. If you haven't liked the video, please do. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.